Sometimes we must live through the darkness in order to see the light. We must visualize.
Hey everyone, this week I'm going to talk about the year after I was diagnosed with DBA again and what happened to lead up to my transplant. So last week I ended off with being at the hospital in Lethbridge and having my hemoglobin down to 30. The next day we ended up driving up to Calgary, which is 2.5 hours north of Lethbridge, and we met up with a pediatric hematologist called Dr. Wu, and he did a bone marrow aspiration and did all these other tests, and I ended up having just 1 unit of blood transfused that night, which brought my hemoglobin back up to 70. Wasn't much help. I was still extremely tired. Ended up putting me back immediately onto prednisone with the steroids, and we were set up with a pediatric doctor in Lethbridge called Dr. Storres, and immediately we started to drop the prednisone just to see if it would get my body working. And the reason why I was only transfused up to 70 is apparently this Dr. Wu thought that he would challenge my body to start producing blood again on its own, but that didn't work. So I was 15 going on 16 at the time, and being on prednisone, I know if you've been on it, it makes you hungry all the time and you can eat and eat and eat without stopping. And so I was really concerned about gaining weight, and I was already probably like 80 pounds. I was a tiny teenager. And so I talked to Dr. Wu and I talked to Dr. Storres, and pretty much what I got from them is all I could eat was broccoli because the levels of vitamins in them. So I ended up kind of developing an eating disorder because I was super paranoid about gaining weight, but that wasn't the biggest problem at that time. So Dr. Wu wanted me to go up to Calgary once or twice a week so he could do my blood tests and to give me the blood transfusions. And my mom found this a little bit unreasonable because all of that could be done in Lethbridge. So she called Dr. Wu and pretty much told him, why can't we get this done in Lethbridge? And essentially this Dr. Wu told my mom that she was a bad mother because she wasn't willing to quit her job and move up to Calgary so I could be treated, which I could be treated in Lethbridge. So my mom talked to the pediatric doctor in Lethbridge, and we ended up meeting up with Dr. Woodman at the Alberta Children's Hospital, and Dr. Woodman was an amazing doctor, and I know I probably treated him like crap a few times because all I ever got was bad news from him, but he was an amazing man. When we met with Dr. Woodman, we ended up trying to continue on the prednisone, but essentially it wasn't working and I was continuing to need blood transfusions. So he ended up talking about this trial that worked for one twin with diamond black vein anemia in Calgary, and it was called cyclosporin. I don't know if any of you with DBA have ever tried cyclosporin. It stinks. It's a stinky drug and it smells like skunk, and you have to take it at the exact same time every day or it just doesn't work. And it was terrible, but we met with these twins with DBA in Calgary, and cyclosporin was working for one of the twins but not the other, and essentially it didn't work for me. So prednisone wasn't working, the cyclosporin wasn't working, so I was down to just the option of having a blood transfusion monthly. So with the blood transfusions monthly, I would end up going to the Lethbridge Regional Hospital, and I would get a blood test done every Friday just to check my levels, and then once every fourth Friday afternoon I would get 2 units of blood. So I would be transfused up to about 100 and 115, and at this time I had this amazing friend named Ashley, and told her I would talk about her. I don't know how I deserved a friend like this. She would come with me to have my blood test. She'd come with me and sit with me these Friday afternoons for 4 hours while I got my blood test. And for a 16-year-old girl to come and sit with her friend in the hospital is just, she's amazing. I call her my angel. While I was getting these monthly transfusions, I've got very difficult veins, especially when your blood is low. Your veins are hard to access anyway. So I remember them getting diapers and wrapping my hand in warm cloths and then wrapping the diapers to keep the heat in just to get my veins to start popping out. And they would use this cream to numb my hand because they were always digging into my hands for the vein because it was impossible. And at one point they even had to go and get an emergency nurse to come and access one of my veins for a blood transfusion. So during this time, I was in grade 10, and I was really involved in the drama production at school. I turned 16, and I was able to get my driver's license, and I got my first first job at the Movie Mill in Lethbridge. And so I was super busy and getting blood transfusions once a month. And honestly, now I don't know how I did it. While I was getting blood transfusions, also going into winter, so high risk of getting the flu or fever or anything like that. So I ended up having IVIG, which is immunoglobulin or something like that, where it would try to boost my immune system. And I remember this transfusion was terrible to get because it's this bubbly liquid, and if you have transfusions, if there's even a little bit of air in the tube, the machines just start beeping because they don't want air to be put into your veins because it could kill you. So every time I was on this IVIG, it would just beep, 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 and it was so annoying. So I was on monthly blood transfusions for about a year, and it was getting to the point where I was going to need to get a port put into my side because of how difficult my veins were, and I would have to start getting nightly iron chelation because of the buildup of iron in the blood transfusions. So this was the point where we decided, should I be getting what's the next step? And me being 16 at the time, I didn't want to have a port put in my side because I was very vain and I didn't want this thing in my side or having a nightly IV or under the skin IV every night. And so we decided to test for, see if I had any matches for a bone marrow transplant. And I will talk about that next week. And I'm just going to say now, I don't remember a lot about my transplant. There are big parts of my life that are missing, I think, just because of the trauma I was going through. So I'm hoping, and I'm asking my family and friends now, that if you're willing to do a video of your experience when I was going through the transplant and share your side of it, because I don't remember a lot of it, but I will share that next week, and I will see you then.
Sometimes we must live through the darkness in order to see the light. We must visualize.